Melissa, we're recording on a Thursday because I survived.
Yes.
I was hiding in the corner of my house. I guess not the corner of my house. In the
You're not
center
supposed to be in a
hallway of my
corner.
house. Yeah, you're not supposed to be in there.
You got to be in the middle.
I think since I've moved here to Oklahoma, we've had our most severe weather warning where we were yesterday. To the point that we were like, yeah, we should maybe not podcast today, as my roof gets ripped off. And I'm sitting there like, all right, like, share, subscribe. But yeah, I survived. We had to put the cats up in one of the closets to make sure they were safe. We were just hanging out in our hallway. There was quite an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So how was your week?
It's fine. Weather here is much more mild. I learned truly shocking information today, Kyle, that I needed to share with you specifically. Today, I watched a video called... Oh, I put the link in here. Let me open the thing back open so I can get the actual full title. This is a video from the YouTube channel Offhand Disney, one of my favorite Disney Parks channels, called Top 10 Disneyland Ghosts, parentheses, The Truth.
The truth revealed.
Have you seen the videos of the potential Disneyland ghosts? Has this reached you?
No. You of the two of us, you are the Disney park nerd fanatic expert of the two
you can't call me nerd fanatic expert when I'm the person who just watches the YouTube videos and I don't make the YouTube videos.
Well, I mean, just of the two of us, you know more than me.
Of
the two of us, I am the Gundam expert, right? I might not be a Gundam expert, but of the two of us, I am a Gundam expert.
Right. You know Gundam and I know Baymax, I guess.
Sure.
But
yeah.
There's these videos. I've seen them around even before I was a big theme park nerd. Not sure how long they've been around, 10, 15 years, something like that, where it shows, it's footage from inside the security booth at Disneyland, I think, not Disney World, okay. Disneyland, with this mysterious ghostly shape that you see across the bank of security monitors in a couple different monitors showing different angles, different feeds of the walkways and queues right outside of the Haunted Mansion. You see this mysterious sort of blurry, glowy figure walk around. Nobody was able to explain exactly what it was. I've seen videos of what looks like a ghost, a shape, like a form sitting in Space Mountain or Pirates of the Caribbean or something. Yeah. You'll see these every once in a while. Yeah. So this is what this video starts off being about, this video from Offhand Disney. And then he starts talking about how in 2009...
they have names. Number 10 is George. George the ghost.
So back in 2009 or 2010, when Toy Story 3 was about to come out, do you remember that there was a vintage toy commercial for the Lotso Hug and Bear? The commercial that would have been on TV in the 80s when that toy was, supposedly created and sold in the canon of the Toy Story universe. Do you remember seeing that?
I don't. Not off the top of my head. There's a good chance I saw it if it was, in fact, a real thing, but...
picture an 80s toy commercial, but they're holding a real life version of the Lotso Hug and Bear, the foe of Toy Story 3. So the video starts talking about that commercial all of a sudden, and it says that commercial was actually just quietly dumped on YouTube on a channel full of other real 80s vintage toy commercials. It just snuck right in there as if it was something absolutely real.
I think I found the commercial on YouTube, yeah.
And then Offhand Disney tells us who made that commercial. Kyle, it was our old friend Christopher Cantwell.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
worked in this capacity making odd promotional videos for Disney at some point in the past, and is how we got this. So he's talking about the Lotso Hug and Bear viral ad. And then he goes back to talking about the ghost videos. And these things are connected because Christopher Cantwell also made the ghost videos.
Did he really?
Yes, he was part of a team that also included Scott Gardner, co-host of podcast The Ride. So like
okay, yeah, I've heard you.
The call was coming from inside the house, Kyle. I've watched these videos. I've known these for like 10 years.
So that's what I was gonna say. For like years and years, people thought that this was like real ghost footage in Disney, and it turns out it's all a big scam.
Or believed
just
it
like
to
an
be
elaborate joke, right?
Right, or believed it to at least be worth considering. Maybe this is a hoax. People have had trouble disproving how it's a hoax. We don't know. And then apparently, in 2020, a year where it was very easy to miss things like this, Christopher Cantwell, who you and I know is co-creator of the TV show *Halt and Catch Fire* and writer of some very good Doctor Doom comics, was like, yeah, I did that. I did that old Lotso Hug and Bear commercial. I did those ghost videos. What other viral videos or just like odd internet videos that I saw like 10 or 15 years ago that I've thought was true was secretly made by the co-creator of one of my favorite TV shows? Like,
God, that's kind of
wild. Did Sam Esmail make the rainbow sponge lady? Is that what I'm going to find out next?
Yeah, so someone like Jeff Lemire made some like obscure like apply it directly to your forehead.
Oh my God.
Like, God, I don't. Yeah, that's interesting. Now I'm wondering if he's like somehow put Easter eggs in his other content to like hint that he was the creator of that stuff. You're like, it was me all along.
Like Stanley Kubrick supposedly revealing that he faked the moon landing footage within The Shining.
Right, yeah. God, that's so funny. Oh man. Welcome to the Captain's Log, the palindromatic number 232 of the Whatnauts Captain's Log. Yeah, I always like the palindrome ones. Those ones are cool. Unfortunately, it's not episode 420. Today is Thursday the 20th. For all you Simpsons,
April 20th, not just any 20th.
Yeah. That like has me just like, what is going on here?
Right. And I'm like, you're the one person who I can tell this to. Yeah.
Yeah. Wild. Well, speaking of Disney stuff, Melissa, I want to jump into something that I don't know anything about, and I don't know if you've gotten a chance to look at this thing yet.
I did glance over it. What you put in our Google Doc was an article of Disneyland rides ranked by the LA Times. And I was wondering if you, like, there's a ton of these. Everybody has tried to rank Disney rides. Did you look at this? Did something specific about this call out to you? Do you know this journalist?
I don't know the journalist. This is written by Todd Martins, who on the LA Times has game critic next to his name here. But I saw a couple people that I follow on Twitter tweeting about this, just being like, this list is absurd. Like, what is happening here? And like in the spirit of like, this is ridiculous, I want to yell about this, but like in a nice way. Like, I just want to talk about this list because there's some wild things on here. So as I alluded to earlier, you are the Disney theme park know-it-all from us two
enthusiast
here. Yeah, sure. So I wanted to run this list by you. Does anything about this list stand out? Is this as absurd as I've heard these two people talking about on Twitter?
Two.
Yes.
Okay.
Just
No, I will
immediately saw
say-
it was like podcast material.
Okay. I went to Disney World once. I have never been to Disneyland. These two parks contain some of the same rides, but there are substantial differences between them. Like the Anaheim versus the Orlando Pirates of the Caribbean, I know is not the exact same ride experience. So I'm the best qualified person you know, probably, but I am not among the best qualified people, period, to go over this.
For sure. But like my knowledge of this stuff is so much like they have their number one highest ranked ride is It's a Small World.
I love this. I support it.
Right, they got Pirates of the Caribbean up there, Haunted Mansion. Those are all the top three. But then like they have other things on here that like Disney Railroad is number 6. Like I don't know if it's supposed to be ridiculous or not. The monorail is number 9.
You have to slow down. First off, so we're reading this article in the Los Angeles Times. For every ride, it gives you a paragraph, and then it says read all. And when I click read all, it takes me back to the top of the page. So there's content here I am missing. I don't have Todd's full argument.
We may be looking at this article by other means to get past the paywall.
I can't even tell that's what it is. Like nothing is telling me you have been paywalled. I'm just like, can I click this? And it's like, welcome back to the top of the page. Do you remember me?
Yeah. This is it. I just thought I would at least run this by you. So if it like so that if you glanced at it and saw something like what number 10 is such and such, no way.
Okay,
it's the worst ride ever.
No, the top 5 makes sense to me. Although the number 5 ride is Radiator Springs Racers, which is in Disney California Adventure. Which is fine. It just depends on if you came here looking for all of the Disneyland resort at large or just Disneyland itself specifically. Number 1 being It's a Small World. That is a surprising choice, but I stand by it. I really love It's a Small World. It's touching. It's inspiring. It's true. It's like the most true thing there ever has been.
Okay. I can see an argument.
Like you know how the song. We all know how the song goes.
I feel that one is also maybe the most famous. Like when you make a reference to a Disney theme park, I feel like more often than not, it's going to be some kind of nod to It's a Small World.
Yeah.
So I can see why that one would get number 1.
It's famous, but it is also infamous in that people do not like the song. The song plays constantly on a loop.
Yeah.
Because there are Disney parks across the world, Anaheim, Orlando, Paris, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. I believe all of them have some form of It's a Small World. All of them play some version of that song. So that song plays like almost on a 24-hour loop based on the time zones of all of those countries.
Right.
Like, I think 2020 was the first time in decades that somebody somewhere was not playing the song It's a Small World. But the song really annoys people. Like, this is a ride that I think is more mocked than it is beloved.
Sure,
They think the song's annoying. They think the dolls are creepy. I love it because when you think about the song, it's a world of laughter. It's a world of tears. It's a world of hopes. It's a world of fears. 4 out of 4, all of those are true. I think it's accurate. I think it understands the human experience. I go on the ride. I feel more human.
Poetry slam thing. Let's see. We got number 20 here is Star Tours. The adventures continue.
Never been on Star Tours.
Which
the railroad I don't know from.
At number 21, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
Oh, people do seem to love that ride. I am surprised that is a smidge lower than it would have been otherwise. Other like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which is another very new ride, is here at 13. Rise of the Resistance is number 4. which
Yeah.
everything I've heard about Rise of the Resistance, that is truly a cinematic powerhouse of a ride.
Yeah. Thankfully,
Man,
you just
space.
barely beat out Matterhorn bobsleds at number 2. So good job, Guardians of the Galaxy, for beating out the Matterhorn bobsleds.
Space Mountain at 18 surprises me. Of course, this might be one of those things where it's very different between Anaheim and Orlando. I loved it in Orlando. Big fan of Space Mountain.
Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run at 26.
Oh my
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. What is this?
Why is that 29? Why is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride below the canoes? Canoes are barely a ride. It contains no toads, and you don't go to hell. Kyle, do you know that that's what happens in Mr. Toad's Wild Ride? Mr. Toad goes to a bar and he gets drunk and he crashes his car and then he goes to hell.
This is a real thing.
It's true. That's it. There's flames. There's like little devil goblin guys. He goes there.
Wow. That truly is a wild ride. I have never even heard of this one. Didn't know this existed. I've never heard anyone mention it even once. That's what I.
You've never even heard the phrase Mr. Toad's Wild Ride? That's like an old school Disneyland ride. I think it's just seeped into pop culture because it's in Disneyland next to Hollywood, where people write screenplays. So they might mention a Disneyland ride, and that's one of the oldest.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I've not seen or heard that one. Oh, Mad Tea Party at number 40.
And another one kind of like
roller coasters.
I think that's kind of like It's a Small World in that it is sort of infamous. Like, you have a lot of fun on Mad Tea Party. It's very iconic. Could also sicken you. People have all sorts of reactions to the Mad Tea Party.
Ooh, man. Coming in at number 45, the Red Car Trolley.
Again, barely. Like, can you ride it? Yes. Is it a ride? I guess for the purposes of this list, sure.
I mean, if the qualifications for this list was like, can you ride it? then
yes.
I feel like your parents' stroller should be in this
on
list.
Dad's shoulders. Number one ride.
Exactly, right?
Kyle, how close are you to a ride right now?
I think there's a water park not too far from here.
You have at least one Ferris wheel in Oklahoma City, just freestanding.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know about like actual theme park though. When I lived in Richmond, I was like maybe an hour away from, I think, like King's Dominion or something like that. Big old
probably got a Six Flags
theme park thing. Yeah. Interesting. Let's see. What do they have here as the very last one that they put on their list? Number 57, Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters.
Not a ride I think people are wild about, but not a ride that upsets anybody. It's like mini golf. It's like glow in the dark. There's standees. You shoot a little gun at stuff and you get points.
There you go. That works. It's a ride.
Yeah. Perfectly serviceable. More exciting than trolley. More exciting than canoe.
Here's something
Although
else
when you're on a canoe, when you're on a canoe, there are long canoes. There's several of you. You work together to paddle yourselves around. I guess there is I've never canoed. There must be a teamwork aspect that people really enjoy.
You don't both want to be rowing on the same side, right? You want to like alternate the stuff, right? So you go straight and not turn. I don't know. But here's something that I saw. So underneath each like name of the ride here on these lists here. It has like I don't know if I would really call this descriptors, but they almost remind me like when you let Netflix sit and it does the screensaver
Yes.
thing, all that stuff, and it's like witty, cinematic, and it just has these like just descriptions of what the show are. Buzz Lightyear, Astro Blasters. One of the descriptions is dark ride.
No, that is the standard technical term. Dark ride is any ride that is in the dark. It is inside a building with lighting effects and scenery.
Like, yeah, that makes sense. But and like the first thing my mind goes to of is like, this is a dark ride. This one's for all the goths out there. Like,
I mean that's like you got your dark
Mr.
rides
Toad's
and then you have your
Wild
haunted
Ride sounds like a dark ride.
Yeah, there's a dark ride, which is Haunted Mansion, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, any of the Haunted Mansion variants at Disney parks around the world, such as Mystic Manor.
Trying to see what else got a dark ride. The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure gets a dark ride.
It's in the dark. It's like
Many
the Six
Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the dark version of Winnie the Pooh.
I don't like you
honey.
mocking the space that I live in every day, Kyle. I live and breathe dark rides.
It's great. That's great. I know nothing about all of this stuff, so I just thought we should take a look at it. This was fun.
If you ever want to learn, write nothing else on our docket. Just write, Melissa, tell me about Disney World, and you've got yourself like 80 minutes.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Oh man. Let's see. What should we do next? We've done all sorts of theme park stuff. Should we so at one point we were like, hey, we should come up with spoofs on the podcast, and we never did because of Pocky.
You cannot just say let's do some spoofs. You have to give us parameters.
So I did originally, right? Was like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna come up with spoofs of like big like movie franchises. We can name it what we want. If you want to come up with a plot or who you think should be an actor in it, if you want to, you can. But just like come up with a spoof or two of
too broad
franchise.
No, you got to winnow it down. It has to be like the other week at trivia, somebody named their team Everything Everywhere All at Once describes my trivia knowledge. So I came up with other trivia team names that were puns on Oscar nominated movies. Like instead of the Fablemans, it's the Factmans, the Answers of Inisherin, Women Answering. Because I had like two things I could combine. You have to limit yourself, Kyle. You can't just say do a movie spoof. There have to be rules. You have to put me in a box.
So like when I thought of this idea for the podcast, we were in the middle of watching all of the Fast and the Furious movies, and we were playing with my cats, and one of them got the zoomies. And I was like, oh man, it's the Cats and the Curious. And then I was like, this is it. What if it's just Fast and the Furious, but it's all cats?
Uh-huh.
And then I was like trying to come up with a plot, which I did not actually come up with one. And I was like, I'll save it. This will be a great like podcast thing we can come up with. But then we never got to it. I was like, that's what's happening next week on the Captain's Log.
No, I tried to talk you into a better idea is what happened.
but so I like, my question to you is this something like, is this something we should do down the road? Should we be like, all right, let's actually have a spoof night where we like pitch each other our spoofs here.
You have to make this razor thin. Like I said, you put us in a box and then we see what we can do. Just saying make any joke out of any movie title.
Yeah.
That's such a big sandbox. I'm going to get lost. I'm going to fall face first in the sand and I'll drown and a big worm will eat me.
That's fair. That's
a
fair.
Big worm will eat the entertainment factor of the podcast if we're just waiting around trying to glue random things together.
Is your podcast troubled by worms? Act now and you can get but like, yeah, like is that I mean yes, we can come up with better parameters, but is this an idea that we should explore down the road? Yes or no?
Sure, okay. We could.
Cool.
You can make up a spoof on your own time and just bring it here. Like if you spend the next week really thinking about the Cats and the Curious, and you make like a cat pun for everybody's names, like Michelle Podriguez. If you come to me with something like this next week on your own, we'll talk about it.
It'd just be so awkward if it's just like, so next up on our list here we have, so I have a spoof that I want to mention. just no context.
This is my book report.
So this is the spoof that I came up with this week.
I'll tell you what,
man.
Try this as something for trivia night this year. Like describe a spoof of a movie and make us work backwards to figure out what the movie is.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. Interesting. Or,
if we make like a game out of it instead of just saying, what if this happened? Then right, what? Like if we're actually trying to guess or solve something, we can do that. I have
to read the description of like an actual spoof that exists of some franchise, and based off the like back of the box, like here's what this movie's about. Like you have to guess what it's spoofing. That'd be a
like
good
describe
one.
The plot of Disaster Movie, and we have to name the 5 movies that are spoofed in Disaster Movie.
Yeah, or like hopefully it's a little bit more narrowed into where it's like, oh, the spoof is the Fast and the Furious, right? Or they are spoofing John Wick, right? And then it's not because then like with ones that have like the multiple ones that you could do, you could kind of make arguments for all sorts of ones that it's spoofing, right? Instead of one, it's like it's an obvious spoof on this thing. Space Balls is an obvious spoof on Star Wars, right?
We'll workshop this.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's all I had with.
We're entering our workshop.
All I wanted to know.
The note cards on the bulletin board. We're gonna, this is gonna go around the writer's room. It's not gonna be ready for this week's sketch show, but in the future.
Yeah. Down the road. That being said, though, I say we take a quick break for some housekeeping. When we come back, we got our cinema corners, we got some Marvel rumors, some new trailers, all sorts of stuff. So lots of movie news and things like that. So we will be right back. Here at the Whatnauts, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier. And if you're one of our patrons already, thank you so much. It means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in The Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. All right, we are back Once again, a big shout out to our Patreon supporters. We love you a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Over on the Pilots Club, our Patreon exclusive podcast this month, we covered Bob Patterson. You've heard us, if you've been listening to the show, you've heard us mention it a bunch. It's just an odd show. That it's just like, what? I don't know. Like, Melissa, you're into like a lot of lost media.
Yes.
And stuff like that, and that's how you found this. I really hope that down the road we can find.
I remembered
more.
It of my own volition. I stored the memory of Bob Patterson in my head for 22 years, and then when I Googled Bob Patterson, one of the first articles was a lost media wiki, and I was shocked to find out that this thing that I've held on to, the world has not.
Well, you can go hear us talking about the pilot episode of Bob Patterson. It's an interesting one for sure. Coming up next month, though, we will be talking about the pilot of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, which I just finished watching that show, and it is phenomenal. Cannot say enough good things about that one. But right here on the Captain's Log, last week, if you did not catch it, we talked about Mario's human hands, his weird human hands, ew, as well as Star Wars Celebration, as well as the Creature Commandos cast and all sorts of stuff. We were catching up on some pop culture news there. It was a lot of fun. Over on the review show, Melissa, you and I got to talk about some Flintstones comics. And never in my life did I think that I would be like, okay, let's dive into spoilers on the Flintstones. That was good.
The little bird turns to the camera and says, "It is a living."
Exactly, right? It was episode 250 of the review show. So I thought it would be a good time to be like, hey, what were some of my favorite things that I covered back on the original podcast that we did when we first started the Whatnauts, and what can I bring back onto the review show? So Flintstones is what we picked, and I think that was a great pick. Those comics are really funny. So go check
Very
that
silly.
out. And then over on the Reactor Core, Melissa, you and I got to talk about some more of the Yellow Jackets. We got to talk about episodes 3 and 4. And then just yesterday, before the storm hit, me and Ignacio got to talk about the second half of The Mandalorian Season 3. That podcast went out this morning as of the day we are recording this, so it will already be up and out by the time you guys are hearing this live in your podcast feeds and stuff like that. So go check all that stuff out. Lots of cool things that we've done over here at the Whatnauts recently. Yeah,
we're busy.
Indeed. Melissa.
Yes.
Renfield.
Oh,
let's talk about let's start with that.
We can't start with Venture Brothers, the biggest news of the week.
Sure.
The biggest news of the week that isn't Christopher Cantwell directed a ghost video.
Yes, let's start with this Venture Bros clip. So I saw this, I sent it to you. Turns out I was not the only one to have sent this to you.
3 people sent it to me, yeah.
Which that has to be a good feeling, though, right? When like everyone knows that like you love this thing, and some news happens on this thing, and then they're just like, Melissa, this is your thing.
What a wonderful treat it was in the middle of the day, because the Venture Brothers, it aired season. We've been over this, so I don't have to go over the whole backstory. But it was a show that aired
on the review show.
Yes. Yeah. It aired 7 seasons, and then we were very excited for season 8, and then we learned that season 8 was canceled. And then we lived in a terrible malaise for several months, and then we learned that Adult Swim was giving it a movie to wrap things up, and it was giving it and like Metalocalypse and Aqua Teen, some of its other like long running shows.
Number 1 in the hood, G.
Yeah. You guys all get like one more movie, continue your story, wrap up your story as needed. And at that time, the announcement was this is getting like a Blu-ray release before it ever hits HBO Max. And I've been very excited for the promise of physical media. And I think this time last year, maybe, there was a tweet from James Urbaniak saying he had recorded his last piece of dialogue as Dr. Venture, which I was very emotional about. And I haven't heard anything since then. I'm not a very active person on social media. I haven't been seeking anything out. I've just sort of been waiting for the universe to place news in my path, knowing that many people know this is my favorite show. And if they heard anything, they would just tell me. It would just be grapevined on down to me. And I just wanted to know it was still out there, that the candle is still burning. And this week we got not a trailer, but just like a 90-second clip of the movie, which is going to be titled Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart.
Yeah.
Which I can't untangle at this time, but I imagine will be contextualized in the movie itself.
That's why I did not immediately be like, let's do a reaction.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a trailer. Like, we get a hint at what might be the plot based on this clip.
It is,
but it's so vague.
I'll say it's, yeah, and it's not very surprising. Like, it seems like the natural continuation of where season 7 left off, which is kind of comforting. Yeah, that it's doing exactly what you think it's going to be doing. And it was such a weird relief at how normal everything looked like. It doesn't seem like they slashed the budget or anything. Like, everybody like looks and sounds the same. Animation's as good as it ever was. It's got the same feeling to it, just in this like little clip. I'm like, that's the boys I know and love. Yeah, there's not the juiciest content in this clip, but boy, is it nice to see them and to get the promise that I'll see more of them again soon. Later this year, promises the trailer, which is promises this little clip, which is enough for me. I will take calendar year 2023 as enough of a promise.
Yeah. Which it's interesting to me that they released a clip and not in like an official teaser or something like that. That's just an interesting marketing. I mean, I guess in a weird way, this is a teaser and maybe one of the better representations of a teaser versus what people normally say a teaser is. It's like a 3-minute teaser, and it's like, here's the plot of the whole movie, right? It's just like, no, I don't. This is a full trailer, but it's a spoiler-filled trailer, right? So we actually kind of teaser.
I guess, but you do feel teased, regardless of whether it calls itself teaser or trailer. I feel teased. I never feel trailed.
Too. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But like, even when I put this link in one of the other Discords that I'm in, like, even the reaction to that was like, oh man, they're still making this? How long has this been in limbo? And I was like, actually, it really hasn't been in limbo. They've just been silent since they announced it, which was only like a year and a half ago, like 2 years at the most. But like 2 years for animation.
It takes a long time. Yeah.
But I think that is kind of I think that's what people remember about the show, is that between seasons, it took forever. It was so long. Which I didn't even watch the show at that time, but I remember it just like taking years for them to come out with a new season. So I think that stuck in people's heads, that of just like, oh, they're still making this? I thought they announced that like 5 years ago. It's like, no, they announced this like 2 years ago. Here it is.
You never react to the Summer Olympics like, gee, they're still doing that. Yeah, it happens.
I mean, I do. Man, we're still
making Olympics. When is the series finale of Olympics?
Like, even like earlier last year, I hear like people on podcasts mentioning the show Survivor and not referencing like the old original stuff. It's still ongoing.
Kyle. Kyle, I have to talk about Survivor.
They still make the show?
They do still make Survivor. Hold on. I have never watched Survivor. When the show first premiered in like the early 2000s, I was in
I watched it back then.
Yeah, at that time, I was in a gifted program at school, and there was a Survivor type class where we sort of did challenges, and the class was arranged like the way the show was arranged. We made little teams. We had to come up with a mascot for our teams.
Did kids get kicked out? Like,
no,
you are no longer smart. Get out.
No, it was just about like you were not eliminated. There just was a winner, and then there were people who did not win. What I remember about it most is you had to come up with a team mascot and make a flag. And everybody's team mascot was a Pokemon, but we weren't saying it's a Pokemon. We just changed it enough. Like they were all the legendary birds, but we're like, I'm Ice Bird. And that team's Firebird. And ours is going to be dissimilar enough from the Pokemon. And we're going to be real mad at you if yours looks too much like the Pokemon. That's my primary memory of taking this class in the year 2000, I think.
Zapticuno would be the name, right? It's like, it's not this one. It's not that one.
Dead Meat, one of my favorite YouTube channels. They do a horror movie kill counts and recaps and all sorts of really fun horror movie games. Look to their podcast for fun games to play. They do Horror Survivor. The husband and wife that run the show are like big Survivor fans. They've both been watching it for years. And they've done 3 of these episodes now. I think they do it every time like a new season of Survivor the show starts. Where they they like pull horror movie character names out of a hat and make tribes out of them. And they just sort of figure out, all right, how is Freddy Krueger going to do in this scenario? And like Chelsea's got a list of.
Do they play it out just like verbally how they think it would play out?
Yes.
Or do they do like a tabletop like role playing?
No,
okay, roll to see if Dracula will beat the challenge here.
Sometimes there is a dice roll for a random event. Like Chelsea has looked at so much of his Survivor lore. Like she's picked out like challenges from the show. Like now we're going to do this type of challenge. They follow the exact structure of a season of Survivor. And sometimes she'll know, okay, it is about this time that we should have a character who like sprains an ankle, and she'll like roll a dice to determine randomly like which character it is that sprains an ankle or like gets sick or something like that. But it's been very fun to see them reason. All right, we put Megan on the island. Megan is an android. Megan doesn't need to eat. How is anybody gonna beat Megan?
Well, obviously there's no outlets for her to recharge. So
it's been really fun to listen to. I didn't know a thing about Survivor, and then I listened to their Survivor horror episodes, and now I want to get into Survivor. They make it sound really fun, and I think that's hysterical that here in the year 2023, having never seen it before, I'm like,
you're just starting.
I want to check out what Survivor is. Is it too late for me to jump on?
That's funny. So you've now given me the option to segue 2 different ways. Do we segue back to Renfield? Because like speaking of horror movies, speaking of dice rolls, do I talk about the podcast that I've been listening to? I just have a small aside with that one.
Is up to you. What is this dice podcast you were listening to? Is this a live play tabletop?
Yes, live play podcast called Friends at the Table. They do.
I think I've heard of that.
Number of different campaigns. Right now, I'm going through their one called Counterweight, and it is a cyberpunk mecha noir story. So of course, it's just like it's for me. But I listened to a couple of the people on that show on other podcasts that they do when I followed their work. And at first I was just kind of listening to the show as I was falling asleep at night, just to have something playing that I like At first I was just like, I should really check out this podcast, but I'm also not really into D&D stuff. But I don't know. I'm getting into this show. It's kind of cool.
Good.
But there's one moment that it's two moments really, something that happened that has now come back like 10 episodes down the road. I just have to mention because I thought it was the funniest thing. So they're on this mission, they're doing this one thing, and one of the characters is trying to hack into a computer. He gets interrupted by this older like NPC who like has bad eyesight, bad hearing, and he tried to convince this NPC that he was in fact the guy that was supposed to work there. He is in fact Larry. And it works. The guy goes away. He continues hacking. But then Larry comes in, the real one.
No.
And like they don't look anything like each other, all that stuff. And he's like the GM is like, yeah, Larry has come back in. He's like, hey, who are you? You're not supposed to be here. And the character's response to the situation what was to like not like it's that initial shock, right, of just like like I'm busted, but then immediately goes into the like I'm saying the same line as you that you're saying it, and his move was to convince him that he is also in fact Larry. And it worked. They rolled, they did all of that stuff. It worked. And so now the real Larry like walks out of this room just thinking about his life of just like what happened, like why are there two of me, like all of that stuff. Mission continues on, the story goes on, and then 10 episodes down the road they're about to embark on their next mission, and the guy who tried to convince these other people that he was Larry is sitting in his room on the ship when someone else walks in, and it looks exactly like him, and he's just like, what are you doing? He goes, oh, hey, it's me, Larry. And so now, like, the guy left. He rethought his whole life. Must have gotten like plastic surgery or like cybernetic stuff to make himself look like the guy that he saw, and then was like, I should really go find my other self to like join them. And so now they have a second Larry.
We've just acquired a doppelganger, a voluntary doppelganger as the campaign went on.
Yeah, and like that's the thing, is that this guy like changed himself to look like him, thinks he's like, man, you convince me that you're also Larry. That's not actually his name, so they haven't like told him yet. That's not actually my name. Like I'm not actually Larry. But I found the whole situation like, this is so stupid. I love it.
It's been a long time since I've listened to any live play tabletop RPG podcasts, but I used to be really into them. But I do love that if you propose a silly idea, if the dice roll backs you up, that's what's happening now. Yeah. Right. So I like that random chance could just force you into these very silly plot lines.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, let's circle back to Renfield. Speaking of silly plot lines,
draw a circle of salt. Yes.
There you go. So you and I both went to go see Renfield this past week. I had a blast. I thought this was pretty funny. Yeah. It's real light on like the writing, the plot. I think the plot is strong. Like they have a great idea for what it is, but it's not a very involved plot.
Yes.
Right. But that's all it needs. Like it's a good time. It's fun. What did you think?
I think the initial concept is very solid, that Dracula's Renfield, his servant, goes to a self-help group session
For abusive
trying to find other
relationships, yeah.
people that Dracula can bite. And he's like, you know what? It is time I start standing up for myself. I am in a toxic relationship.
He is a terrible
I gotta turn
boss,
my life
yeah.
around.
Yeah,
I
I
like
had
that
no
concept.
idea that Robert Kirkman was involved, and he was one of the people that helped come up with the concept, or who knows what. I don't know, but yeah, it was good.
There's other stuff that's kind of cookie cutter, like the plot about the criminals killed my dad, and that's why I became a cop to avenge my dad. Like there's some parts of it that did feel kind of like they could have used another pass or two, but there's other stuff that I thought was really inventive. I like how they
Yeah.
use the camera. Like as soon as Renfield's like, I'm turning my life around, I'm doing it, there's a star wipe. One of the finest uses of a star wipe. And then they play like a Lizzo song as he's like, I'm going to Macy's, I'm getting real close, I'm buying an apartment. He paints the apartment all these bright colors. He plasters
It's like
the
from
thing
Mr. Robot when he gets the
Right.
Starbucks and he's just so happy.
It's that kind of a scene. Yeah, he's covered his apartment in inspirational posters. Like he's got
that
a whole
all just say
collage
inspiration. They all just say
they're-
inspiration on them.
There's pretty fun stuff in there. We had a good time. I loved the
it's
end
good.
credits. I love how they took archival footage of like the actual Universal picture Dracula and put Nicholas Hoult and Nick Cage in there. And then they do that with like other old vampire footage over the end credits. Old vampire movies. I shouldn't say old vampire footage like it's true to life documentarian, true life journalism.
Can't well make these too. No, yeah, like they like stylistically, I think the movie is really cool because it's scary when it needs to be, which is not often. But it's scary when it needs to be. It's funny when it needs to be. It's stupid when it needs to be. Like the gore in this is just over the top. It's so silly.
Very silly. Yeah.
Like there's one fight scene when they rip off one guy's arms and then he throws it to like stab another guy through a door, and then the cop like pulls out that arm and starts beating someone with it. It's just it was fun. I had a good time watching it, and it's just inventive, I think. Imaginative. So
this weekend at some point I'm gonna go see Evil Dead Rise. So
there you go.
This is a good time for horror. There's been some nice horror hits to go out there and see in a theater.
Good stuff. Well, let's end with this. Let's stay in the movie realm here. So this week on Twitter, there has been a rumor going around that Adam Driver is in talks to play Reed Richards. I haven't really seen very many credible, like this was happening, or like it's reported that he's in talks. It's only a rumor.
Like the other week when we had an article that was somebody talked about Clayface.
Right, yeah.
Clayface confirmed for Batman 2 villain.
God, some of the internet out there is just ridiculous. But yeah, how would you feel about Adam Driver as Reed Richards?
My one requirement for Reed Richards is that he has to be a dork. Reed Richards can't be cool.
Okay. Sure, yes. Yeah, I agree with that. He's not supposed to be cool.
Right.
I don't know. So I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan. I haven't read too much of their stuff. I don't know if I would describe Reed as a dork, other than he's a side. I think my Reed is the like he's married to his work. Kind of Reed. Like
maybe less of a dork and more of a square.
Yes, I could see that. He is more of a square. He is the doting.
Well, really,
husband,
he's any shape
right?
he wants to be. Spiritually, a square.
I mean, yeah, there's no need to stretch him out in all these different directions. He can do that himself, which I think is also kind of his character too, right? He's married to the job. He has his wife. He
Yes.
has his family. He's doing the superheroing business. He's arch enemies and rivals and kind of colleagues with Dr. Doom, right? Like I feel like he is the man pulled in a million directions.
Yes.
And as a result, like can't fully commit himself to one of them, right? If that makes sense. But that doesn't necessarily make him. He is a dork, right? He's super into science and dork.
When I think about who I want to see as a live action Reed Richards, the answer to that question should be the same answer to the question of who do you want to see as a live action Professor Utonium from the Powerpuff Girls?
Yes. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Interesting. Yeah. I was even thinking of like on if he played a more serious role, like who would play Bill Nye in a Bill Nye biopic?
Okay, that's another good approach. Yes.
Right?
Who was like the funny
Like,
or die sketch version of playing Bill Nye?
But then yeah, like I one of the reasons why I like we all like Bill Nye is that he's so
Bow
funny,
ties,
he's
cool
so
theme
charming,
song.
right? Like he's silly, whereas I don't necessarily see Reed as silly. So if you kind of rein that in, but have that passion for science and stuff, right? It's like that's him there. I can see it right there. But I don't know. Like I haven't seen much of Adam Driver's work outside of Star Wars. How is he?
Same.
So you've seen Logan Lucky. He's in that. Is he?
He is good in Logan Lucky.
Because I feel like he has range. I just haven't seen it.
Yes.
Because I haven't seen those movies. Not that it's like I
should
haven't
watch
seen
Logan
it 'cause it's
Lucky.
not out there. He can't do it.
It's one of my favorite movies of the last handful of years, Logan Lucky.
Interesting. Like I could see him doing it.
This is what he's got.
I'm not opposed.
He's got like the right body type. Like he's real tall, lanky, angular. You look at that face and you're like, I can see that stretching.
Yep. Yeah, I saw someone else. I don't know the actor's name. I think he's actually in The Good Place. African American actor.
Yes, the one from Quantumania.
Yes, him.
Yes, William Jackson Harper. Yes, I remember. I did not know him before I saw some little news blip months ago saying he was cast in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. There were theories that this movie was going to include some sort of a kickoff to the Fantastic Four, given director Peyton Reed's previous interest in directing a Fantastic Four movie. And they're like, is this guy a Reed? And just looking at him, I'm like, that's Reed energy. Like something about him looks like really smart. Kind of got that square energy to him. That's not who he was, unfortunately.
People mention him, as like we would love to see him get cast. He's right there, And I was just like, ooh, yeah, he looks the part. I would love that. But oh well, that's not happening. But yeah, that was exactly who I'm thinking about. Speaking of The Good Place, that's what we'll be covering on our end of the month specials over on the review show. So I'm excited to finally check out that show. I have not yet, but I say we wrap the podcast up right there. How's that sound?
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, we've got stuff on the plate for next week. I saw an entire live stage musical.
We sure do. Yeah, we will wrap things up right there. Melissa, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WilkyWit, and listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities.
There you go. If you guys would like to follow me, I am at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you would like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. Y'all know the deal with all of that. If you're watching this on YouTube, got more videos over that way. Go check them out. That would help us out even more. But yeah, this has been number 232 of the Whatnauts Captain's Log. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.